Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Savvy Cast. This is Jamie. I'm thrilled that you're here today, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast. Okay, fall is in the air. It is finally feeling like fall here in Birmingham, and our small group is about to kick into gear. All of you are probably planning some sort of entertaining, and whether it be tailgates, football watch parties, then we get into whether it's Halloween or fall festival. We get into Thanksgiving and then Christmas. Holidays are on the horizon because fall is here. So I am planning a Costco trip. In fact, as soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to Costco. And I want to just share a few of the things that are on my list. And if you have a Costco or a Sam's membership, I would recommend that you get some of these yourself because I think it makes holiday entertaining and cooking and prep so much easier. And number one is the aluminum foil. Now, you might ask, why would you buy aluminum foil at Costco? If you think about all of the things that you plan to make between now and even through the first of the year, because you've got New Year's Eve, New Year's, lots of cooking. If you really calculate the amount of aluminum foil that you plan to use for either laying on a baking sheet to cover it while maybe you're baking something that has a lot of grease, or whether you're making a tight cover for, I'd use it for beef brisket. I cover it tightly and wrap it in foil to make a little oven. When Zane grills, he always gets a lot of aluminum foil to keep the whatever he grilled warm inside the aluminum pan. There are myriad uses for aluminum foil, and aluminum foil is something you don't want to be without. Just think if you have a party and you've got a lot of something left, cookies or cake, and you have paper plates to put things on, but you can't find your foil. So what do? You can't just send people out the door with a plate of cookies with nothing over it. So foil is something, guys, you are going to use a lot more in the months ahead. So I believe that at Costco you get two, maybe three of the heavy duty, the long. It's heavy duty and it's the long roll. So these short rolls, they are useless unless you're just wrapping little bitty things. So the length, it's actually the length plus some of the widest cookie sheet. So you can use one length for a cookie sheet if you just want to wrap up something or cover something on a cookie sheet, and it's heavy duty. The normal aluminum foil to me is so flimsy because I'm just accustomed to the heavy duty. So I would just say go ahead and invest in this, because even if you've got a lot left over at the end of the holiday, you'll use it eventually. So I feel like it is the best price, and it's definitely the best foil as far as being heavy duty and long. So that is one thing on my list that I would just recommend. Another thing that I think is super, super important, and you're going to need more than typical, and that is garbage bags. And I will say, I've never, ever found a better price and a better garbage bag than at Costco. And I have tried everything. There's nothing I've ever found at the grocery that is anywhere close to the good, plain white drawstring 13-gallon garbage bags from Costco. I want to say they're $13 or $16. I'm going to say it's $100. Guys, when I have to maybe last minute get something at the grocery store, you've got scented. It smells like lavender. It smells like this, or it stretches and it expands. They are horrible, in my opinion. So I always get an extra garbage bag. I think you get maybe two rolls of 100. I always get extra because you think of the amount of entertaining, so much more garbage and trash. So I always, always get the aluminum foil and the garbage bags. And then I don't during just normal times when it's just Zane and me and we're not doing a lot of entertaining, I'll just typically grab paper towels at the grocery. But when we're entertaining, I go through paper towels like crazy because I like to clean the countertops with them, throw them away. If there's any meat that gets on the marble, I spray it with Lysol and then I clean it up with the paper towel, toss it, and then I get a new paper towel and toss it in the sudsy water and I get it all clean, then toss them. If I'm making bread, I've got this sticky dough that's on the dough hook or on the spatula. So I get that off with a paper towel, throw it in the garbage. So many needs, especially during the holidays, for paper towels. So I get those there at Costco because I do think you cannot get them at a better price anywhere else. Okay, so, and then as far as I'm in paper goods right now, as far as other paper goods, because we have small group and it's not like formal entertaining, I get Solo cups there, best price ever on Solo cups. And a lot of times they'll have seasonal. So I will always get Solo cups and I will typically get their paper plates, not styrofoam, but I'll get their paper plates because it will be the best price. And if you're doing entertaining that's large scale, like a small group or something that's really casual, it is good to have paper plates disposable because what we have decided as far as with our small group is that we're not setting fancy because it's not sustainable. Washing dishes, cooking during the middle of the week. So we do use paper. So Solo cups, paper plates, and one more thing are their plastic utensils. They're actually acrylic, so they're clear and they're really sturdy. And we use those when we have small group. They're acrylic flatware. We get a big box and I think it lasts us most of the small group. So those are the paper goods that I'm getting ready to get at Costco. Now, the other thing that I never leave without, ever, any time of the year, and that is their rosemary Parmesan bread. And I think sometimes it will just be they'll just do Parmesan, but typically I can find rosemary Parmesan. It is in the bakery, it's freshly baked every day. You used to get 2 loaves, now it's just one, at least at my Costco. Maybe it's not, guys. Maybe it's still 2, but nonetheless, I get it. It is the best bread in the whole wide world, and you can immediately bring it home, put it in a freezer Ziploc bag, press as much air out as possible, label it, stick it in your freezer, and you can have the bread of your dreams to pull out for your next tailgate, party, whatever. It is amazing. Now, I just put the loaves in whole. You can also slice the pieces before you freeze them, put them in a Ziploc and freeze them. I just typically do the whole loaf, but either way, fresh or just like fresh bread at the ready when you're doing entertaining the most. So I'm going to be getting probably 2 loaves of the rosemary bread. That will get us through 2 small groups, and it's just fantastic. And that leads me to one of the next things that I would get. And this is not at Costco, but I'm going to put a link in the show notes because before I discovered Costa olive oil, I was getting my olive oil at Costco, and there is good olive oil at Costco. I believe there's one brand that's Bobby approved, and he says it's really great. I exclusively use Costa now. I use their everyday and their original, and their everyday you get in a big tin. It's what I use for every single thing as far as baking, anything that would typically call for canola or vegetable oil. I use the everyday. The original I do for drizzling vegetables, making dressings. It's got more of the robust flavor, but that olive oil of whichever you get, I drizzle over the rosemary bread and heat it up, and it's good to go. If you are not a Costa person, get a big, good bottle of olive oil or two at Costco and get a bottle of avocado oil. Because if you're not going to get the Costarina every day, the avocado oil will substitute for canola or an inflammatory oil in most cases. So I would say grab a bottle of EVOO and a bottle of avocado oil just to prepare for all of the holiday cooking that you will be doing. Another thing that I think it's wise to grab at Costco, and you can immediately freeze it if you're not, and you're probably not going to come home and use it, is get some really good croutons. And they do have, I can't remember the brand that I've gotten there before, but just think about how many salads that you're going to make. And croutons always just add to most salads. If you want to make a Caesar, you've got to have croutons. And if you want to make just a good garden salad, croutons just add that crunch. So if you want to get the best price and have enough to take you through the holidays, just go ahead and get that at Costco. And you can actually freeze individual size portions enough for one big salad. I like to, even though I make my own croutons sometimes, I always keep some others in the freezer on hand because I'm not making them constantly. But I get the quart size freezer bags and I'll put about a cup and a half to 2 cups per bag, because when I'm making a holiday salad, it's a big one. So I just pull those out, because if you put all the croutons in one big bag and you keep opening and closing, they're more likely to get freezer burn. So I would definitely grab some croutons. Okay. Another thing that I'm planning to grab, and I'm just really thinking through this list as I go, but I plan to get a brisket, a flat cut beef brisket, and I'll link to my recipes where I'll be using these cuts of meat. I've never found a place that you can shop locally. There are some specialty butchers, and one is, I will link to it in the show notes. It is Porter Road, and I have had their beef brisket. It is fantastic. They're like a locally sourced butcher. But if you're wanting a place that you can go in most cities in the US and get a good brisket, Costco has a great one, and it's the flat cut, not the corned beef. And you want to get that brisket and link to my recipe, and you want to freeze it in the marinade that's in my recipe. Label it, and then whenever you're going to have a big crew coming over, you can pull that out, let it thaw a day or two in the fridge, and then all you have to do is put it in the oven for all day low and slow, and you have a fantastic chopped beef brisket to serve your people. And it's fantastic. So I always grab a brisket. A flat cut beef brisket can be very hard to find, but Costco always seems to have it. I would get the brisket. I would also look at, they don't always get them this early, so they may not have them, but you can sometimes find prime, and prime is better than choice, beef tenderloin. And I always do some sort of beef tenderloin, and I will link to my recipes in the show notes. But that is something that you can get ahead and you can freeze. And it freezes beautifully if you wrap it well. It's just good, in my opinion, to have one in the freezer because you're going to get a good price at Costco, and it freezes beautifully. You can freeze it in marinade based on which recipe you follow, but it's good to have it in the freezer because nothing to me is worse than knowing, hey, I've got small group next week. I need to run get a brisket. I need to run. I don't operate that way. It makes me stressed. I like to know, oh, I'm going to pull out that brisket or that beef tenderloin that's in the freezer, and then all I have to do is put it all together and I've got it done. So that is another thing that I'm going to be looking to see if they have when I go. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm thinking through my must-haves for the holiday, and I believe that I've covered them all. probably the minute I get off the podcast, I will think of something else. But one more thing. Yes. And I learned this from my friend Marie Marino, and this is such a must have during the holidays because just think you're going to have people over for breakfast, especially during Thanksgiving, Christmas, whether they spend the night or kids come early to open presents or whatever. Grab and freeze. Again, these freeze beautifully. They are Belgian waffles and they are individually wrapped and they moved them. They used to be over near the bakery. Then they got moved over more near snacks, but I'm not sure. Just make sure you find them. The Belgian waffles, they will make the most perfectly delicious and perfectly easy quick breakfast on the go, or quick fresh breakfast with everyone at your house. You just put out your bowls of yogurt, assorted fresh fruits, honey, granola, all the toppings, and you make waffles with all of the assorted toppings. You just make a waffle bar. Marie, actually, I learned that from her, and actually, I helped with when her daughter got married, bridesmaids brunch boxes, and we put those waffles in there with fruit, with cheese cubes, and I believe we did Mike's Hot Honey, little packets, and each girl could just make her own little waffle. But it's fresh and it's delicious, and I don't know where else you can get those Belgian waffles other than Costco, and they are not a bad price, and you could also make chicken and waffles with those. But I do not have any plans to buy a waffle maker. So I'm not making waffles. So those Belgian waffles are fabulous. They're fabulous to have on hand, especially during the holidays. Oh, here as I'm talking, I'm thinking of things. You're definitely, since we're near the holidays, you're going to want to grab pecans. I always get at least a pound because I'll go through a pound before the end of the year. I make a pecan pie. I put pecans in almost all of my nut breads. You can also put pecans on your salad. You can put it on charcuterie boards. But if you're going to buy pecans, buy them when they're seasonal and they're coming out for the holidays. And I also usually grab walnuts because I just use those things more during the holidays, and you are going to get a better price there. And I finally believe that's all. You probably will start seeing ham, and they do have a good ham. If you want to, make it, use the packet. That's another thing you might want to get if you see it. And then a lot of the holiday things that I think are also good, they're going to probably come out after this podcast post, but they always have good garland for mantles or staircases. You can get that there. Just a lot. You can get good poinsettias there. But as far as the basics in the kitchen, the things that are on my list are the things that I just shared. And if you don't normally get them, you might think about it on your next Costco trip just to make sure you're prepared for the holidays. And I hope that this was helpful. I would love to hear from you if there's something that you always get at Costco before the holidays that's super helpful. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. And as always, until next time, you have a fabulous rest of your day.